Today's topic is DNA fingerprinting under the same chapter, Molecular Basis of Inheritance. Today we will try to understand what is DNA fingerprinting. Just as we have fingerprints which are unique for every person, likewise our DNA is also unique. Everyone's DNA is unique in its own way, that it does not resemble a second person, except in case of identical twins. A pair of identical twins will always have the same type of DNA. Why? Because they have been formed out of the same zygote. Except for those, that is the identical twins, otherwise the DNA in every person is unique. It will never resemble with a second person, not even with your siblings or with your parents. 100% similarity will be there. Of course, with our parents we have 50% similarity. But otherwise, the DNA fingerprinting of every person is unique. And in this lesson today, we will try to understand what are the basic principles applied for DNA profiling or the molecular fingerprinting. What are the principles applied? What are the methods that are followed? What are the steps that are followed, as also its application? So let us start with the lesson. DNA fingerprinting, what it is. It is a technique which is used to distinguish between individuals of the same species using only samples of their DNA. So suppose we have got a cell sample, say a blood stain, a drop of blood, a hair part, a bone part, any cell part we have got, and we want to find out to whom does that particular cell belong to. We have certain people with us, and we have an assumption that probably it belongs to one of them. Then that particular cell with its DNA can be studied in details through the technique of DNA fingerprinting or DNA profiling, whereby we will be able to trace out the DNA, and then accordingly we can exactly place the DNA, that is, as to whom it belongs to. So it is a technique which can help us in finding out or detecting as to whom that particular DNA belongs to, or we want to distinguish between individuals of the same species. Even that can be done through it. It is also known as DNA profiling or molecular fingerprinting. Then furthermore, it helps in identification of criminals in case of murder or rapes, and paternity test in case of disputed parentage. Now, what are its applications? If you want to know about its applications, the DNA fingerprinting has helped in solving many cases. Many cases such as murders, assaults, rapes, such cases can be solved with the help of fingerprinting techniques. How? That is, sample like at the crime scene, some cell parts of the criminal, it is obtained, that can be taken, is DNA profiling can be done, and then it can be compared with the databases, because in the databases the DNA profiling is stored, many of the people. But if not, there are some suspects, and from that suspects comparison is done of the DNA, and then accordingly it can be sorted out in cases of murders or rapes. In cases of murders, any cell part which is obtained in a crime scene can be taken, and for rapes usually the seminal fluid or the vaginal fluid is taken, from where the DNA of the cells present in them can be traced out. Then importantly, it can also help in paternity disputes, like a child is being claimed by two sets of parents as it belongs to them. So such disputes can be solved through profiling of the DNA of the child and the parents to whoever it matches, so the child belongs to that parent. It was first invented by Alec Jaffery at the University of Leicester, United Kingdom in 1985. Now we have to understand certain concepts before we go into the method. Now, every person has a specific pattern of DNA sequence. We are familiar with it, and the DNA pattern, DNA sequence in an individual is always the combination of mother and father. As we know that 50% of the chromosomes comes from mother and 50% comes from father. That is 23 plus 23, which will make 46. So a child, the zygote which will develop into the individual, that zygote will have 50% of the DNA, that is the chromosomes which will have the DNA coming from the one set of the homologous pairs coming from the father and one set coming from the mother. So the particular individual will have both the combinations. Now, out of the total DNA, some will be coding and some will be non-coding. That means some of a portion of the DNA will help in coding or act as genes that will code for proteins expressed as characters in the individuals, whereas a portion will not code for any protein. As such, it will never express in the form of characters. We will stress on it. A large amount of DNA does not code for any protein. Now a pie chart is represented here, as we can see. Now in this pie chart, it is shown that the coding portion is a very small percentage. A very small portion is the coding gene or coding DNA. The major portion is non-coding. It does not code for any protein in a human out of the total DNA content. Now the non-coding sequences may have other many useful functions. Now one example of a non-coding sequence are those repeats, like short tandem repeats. We will talk about them furthermore. Now the Human Genome Project. The salient features of Human Genome Project states that 99.9% of the base pairs are common in all individuals. In all human beings, 99.9% of the DNA is the same, exactly same. What differs, how do we differ from each other, lies only in this 0.1% of the base pairs. That is how we are unique, how we are different from a second person. The second is different from a third is different from the fourth, and so on and so forth. So what is responsible? Only 0.1% of the DNA. Only 0.1% of the base pairs are responsible for creating these differences. Now, when the total DNA is subjected to centrifugation technique, the centrifugation technique, that is density gradient centrifugation technique, when we apply, then it has been seen that when the DNA is subjected to a centrifugation technique, then it has been seen that two fragments are obtained. One can be called as the main band and the other is referred to as the satellite band, which is smaller, which is less dense. The main band appears to be more denser, and so they are usually at the lower end. If we try to trace out a graph out of this separation, how they are separated, then it has been obtained, or it has been seen, that two peaks are formed in the graph. One is a major, which is due to the bulk DNA. Bulk DNA means here 99.9% of the base pairs. So they form the main band or the main bulk DNA. Whereas the small portion, it is due to that 0.1% of DNA. That is called as the satellite DNA. That is referred to as the satellite DNA. And this satellite DNA, it has the bases, okay, different forms of bases. Of course, this turns out to be the non-coding regions also. Now, satellite DNA. What is the characteristics of satellite DNA? Satellite DNA, we have to remember, students, satellite DNA means the portion of DNA, okay, which only 0.1% of the bases come under satellite DNA. And this DNA, that means when we subjected it to centrifugation, it appeared as a lighter band, okay, less dense. So that shows that its proportion is very, very less. What is the characteristic present in it? The characteristic is that it is made up of many repetitive DNA sequences. Repetitive DNA sequences means, like suppose in the whole of the sequence in the DNA, there are some bases like ATG, again ATG, again ATG, again ATG. So that way it gets repeated for quite a number of times, which may vary 5, 10, 15, sometimes only 2. So it gets repeated. So those repeated sequences can be referred to as the repetitive DNA sequences. Those are called as repetitive DNA sequences. That is the characteristic of satellite DNA. When the satellite that 0.1% was traced out, it was found that they contain such repeats. They are made up of such repeats. Now, the satellite DNA again can be classified. Okay, they can be classified on the basis of three. Okay, three criteria are taken here. One is on the proportion of the bases, ATGC, what proportion is present in that. Then the length of the segments, for what length the repeat has occurred within the DNA. Then furthermore, number of copy. Okay, number of copies that are present. That means how many repeats are there. Just as I told little while ago, ATG, ATG, ATG. Say 3 times, 5 times, 15 times it has been repeated. So basing on that also it can be categorized or classified. So accordingly we get two major types, mini satellite and micro satellites. Furthermore, just to shed little more light, now tandem repeats. Tandem repeats are the same, that is the repetitive DNA. Tandem means occurring consecutively, one after another without any break. So such repeats are also called as tandem repeats. Okay, occur in DNA when a pattern of 2 or more nucleotides is repeated and the repetitions are adjacent to each other. What I explained little while ago. Then in the dense, when they were subjected to centrifugation, they formed two bands as already shown. Now here an example is given here, ATTGC. This is the sequence that has got repeated. See here, and the second time also ATTGC, ATTGC. So how many times it is repeated? 3 times it has got repeated in the DNA. So such repeats will be called as satellite DNA. And depending upon the length, we will categorize them as microsatellite and mini satellite. Now, such repeats vary from person to person. This is now we are approaching towards DNA profiling or DNA fingerprinting. Now these type of repeats, tandem repeats, okay, of the bases, they vary from person to person. What varies here? Not the type of the repeats. What varies is the number of the repeats. Like say in a person ATG, those 3 bases gets repeated 5 times. In the second person, it may get repeated 10 times. In the third person, it may be repeated only 2 times. But it will vary from individual to individual. As such repeats are also called as variable number of tandem repeats. Now to break that up, VNTR. So repeats. Repeats means the bases that are getting repeated. The sequence of bases that are getting repeated one after another. Tandem, consecutively they are getting repeated without any break. Then the number of repeats, it varies from individual to individual, hence called as variable number of tandem repeats. Now here is an example, a picture to represent those variations. Like say in this person, the yellow regions, in all the 3 persons, the yellow regions are the coding portion. That means these are the genes that will code for a protein. The rest of them, they are non-coding. Again coding, non-coding. So now in the first person, the blue portion that has been shown, this is a repeat. So the lines, they are representing repeats, number of repeats. So in this first person, it is repeated 10 times. In the same location, in the second person, it is getting repeated 14 times. In the third person, it is getting repeated only 5 times. Likewise, at the second portion, there is another tandem repeat which is getting repeated 12 times. In the second person, 7 times. In the third person, 10 times. So you can see how it is varying, how the repeats vary from person to person. But of course, randomly among so many individuals in this world, randomly it is very much possible. Sometimes the repeat at this location is 10, in the second person also it can be 10. But at some other location, the repeat will again be different. So there will be differences in the repeats when, because such repeats is not only at two locations, there will be many locations of such repeats. So at least in one or two locations the repeats will definitely vary from person to person. Then as due to it, what happens, the DNA, the variety of DNA can be obtained or is present in nature. Occurrence of such regions of DNA that vary widely from person to person is called as DNA polymorphism. This phenomenon is called as polymorphism. Now we have approached fingerprinting. So DNA fingerprinting is based on identifying such sequences. So if we can identify the sequence of two persons, then we can easily make out or find out what are the differences. Or that cell will, suppose we have a cell here, okay, we do the profiling. We have also done profiling for these three people. We compare that the DNA of the cell that is in our hand with three of them, whom it belongs to, so easily we can sort out. Now we will go to the method. Now in method, the steps of DNA profiling. First, what is done? Isolation of the DNA. Now isolation of DNA, that is, we have a sample. Let us say we have a sample of blood. We have a sample of blood, and that from the sample of blood, what is done? First, we add some enzymes which will digest the cell, leaving behind only the DNA sample. To the DNA sample is added the enzyme endonuclease. Now, endonuclease is an enzyme which can cut the phosphodiester bonds. So, when we apply endonuclease, what will happen? It will cut the DNA, the entire DNA, into tiny fragments. So, here cleavage of DNA by RE. RE means restriction endonuclease. So, it cuts the DNA at different locations. Followed by subjecting this separated or cut out DNA to gel electrophoresis. Because here what are we getting? We are getting all the fragments together. We cannot make out the fragments, the long, the short ones. We will not be able to study the fragments here. So it's very much important that they get spread out. They are separated from each other. So for that, what is done? We subject the cut out fragments to gel electrophoresis. In gel electrophoresis, the main principle underlying is that a gel piece is taken. The gel piece is usually made up of agarose. It is taken, and then to both the sides electric fields are applied, positive and negative. And as we know, DNA is negatively charged. So what will happen when we add the DNA fragments? These fragments we add to the negative end. Then they will, and on application of electric field, what will happen? They will start moving towards the positive side. As they move towards the positive side, the DNA gets separated according to their size. According to their size, they get separated. So all of them, but there is no more overlapping. All of them will get scattered out or spread out. The entire DNA will be spread out. They will move towards the positive end. That is gel electrophoresis. So once it gets separated, after that what will be done? This will be transferred from agarose gel to another medium that is called as nitrocellulose. This step is known as blotting technique. In blotting technique, what will be done? Another medium, nitrocellulose medium, it is taken and placed over the nitrocellulose, over the agarose gel, whereby the DNA fragments will get transferred to nitrocellulose. After which it is labeled with, it is hybridized with radio-labeled VNTRs. Now, radio-labeled VNTR, they are prepared from beforehand. The specific bases are kept and then they are radio-labeled. Finally, identification with autoradiography. They are subjected to radiations whereby we will be, because they have already been radio labeled. Now when we subject to radiation, what will happen? We will be able to detect the DNA. We'll be able to detect the DNA as to what are the bases and what length, especially length. Okay, length of the fragments, each of the fragments. And what are these fragments? These fragments are the repeats, the repeated units. These are all repeated units. You have to always remember that, because when we fragmented, care was taken that the repeated units are fragmented. Now let us take an example which will help us to understand it better. There are two individuals, say individual A and individual B. Okay, there are two individuals, the subject of studies. So what is done? The entire DNA is profiled. Entire DNA not possible to show here. It will be slightly difficult. So what we have done, we have just taken 3 chromosomes out of that. It is applicable for all the chromosomes. All the chromosomes will be studied, but here we are just taking as an example only 3 chromosomes. Say chromosome number 7. The individual A's, chromosome number 7 of individual A. These are the homologous pairs. So here are the repeats. 1, 2, 3. 3 repeats. The other of the homologous pair has 4 repeats. Individual B at the same location, the number of repeats are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. So 11 repeats in individual B. And in the other homolog, it is 9 repeats of chromosome number 7. Chromosome number 2, in a similar manner for individual A, the number of repeats are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. 8 repeats. In chromosome number 2, 7 repeat, the homolog. Individual B, chromosome number 2, the repeats are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. 8 repeats and 6 repeats. So individual B and individual A, how are they differing? Here itself we can make out, say, how they are differing. Here only 4 repeats, here 9 repeats, 3 repeats, here there are 11 repeats, but here similarities, again dissimilar. So at some point similarities might exist. Then chromosome number 16 was also studied. So similarly the number of repeats in the homologs shown in A and B. Now after that, what was done? The individuals' DNA was fragmented, all the process carried out, subjected to gel electrophoresis, finally transferred to nitrocellulose. This is on nitrocellulose after autoradiography. After autoradiography, what do we see here? We see here that the DNA which had got separated are visible clearly. Why they are clearly visible? Because there was application of VNTR probe. Now VNTR probes are radio-labeled bases. They are radio-labeled bases, sequence of bases that are applied, that are added to this gel piece, whereby according to the complementary bases, okay, according to the complementary bases that will be present here, they will bind. So thereby what will happen? The fragment which was already impressed upon, which was already placed upon from the sample, it was placed upon the nitrocellulose, will be radio labeled due to the probe. So now what do we see here? Also this has been numbered. What are these numbers? These numbers are tandem repeats. That means how many times the repeats are. As already I mentioned, that they will separate according to the sizes. Sizes means this way. Out of all of these, we see the smallest is here. Chromosome number 16, one of the homolog of individual B is the smallest. So it has traveled here. It has reached here. So this is the 2 base repeat. So it gets located here. So we number it accordingly. Okay, according to the size, they will separate out. So here we get the smallest size. Then if we see the next, let us see this one. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So here is the 5 base repeat. It's located here. So likewise, say for chromosome number 2, the 6 base repeats and 8 base repeats. Then 9 and 11. So here 9 and 11. So this is the DNA profiling of individual B. Now here we are doing only for 3 chromosomes. So that way when all the 23 chromosomes will be done, 23 pairs of chromosomes will be done, then we will get here 46 such bands. We will get 46 such bands. So similarly for individual A also carried out. Now, how does it help us, or how does it help in forensic sciences? Now, suppose there is a cell sample. We're assuming it belongs to individual C, but there is an assumption that that C sample, which we're assuming to belong to C, might be one of A or B. That there is no person C, but actually that sample might be belonging to A or B. So what will be done? That sample C is taken. That is also again profiled. Okay, after profiling, what is done? After profiling, it is compared. So here the profiling of C sample is done, and then it is compared with the already traced out samples of A and B. When we compare the profiling of C with A or B, A and B, then we can see here, as it is seen here, it is exactly similar to individual B. The repeats are same with individual B. So clearly what do we get? We get that this sample C, there is no third person, but actually that sample C, it belongs to the person B. It belongs to B person. So this is how the DNA fingerprinting or profiling can help us in solving disputes or helps us in understanding DNA. Now, what are the applications? Already we have mentioned, but still then, what are the applications of DNA fingerprinting? It helps in forensic sciences to solve disputes. Then also it helps in determining population and genetic diversities among different groups of people. How the diversity, how the genetic quality can be different from region to region, person to person. That can be studied by profiling the DNA of different groups, different races of people, how they have evolved, how they have changed over time. So such studies can be done with the help of DNA profiling. Then what type of cells or materials are generally used for profiling DNA? They can be hair follicles, they can be saliva. Saliva, we know it does not contain cell as such, it is just a liquid, but it will contain the epithelial cells of a chick, in a chick, okay, inside. So chick cells will be present in the saliva, so those cells can be taken out. The DNA in those cells can be used for profiling. Blood samples can be used for profiling. Then semen can be used, vaginal fluid can be used, tissues can be used, any cell part can be used, some dead bones can also be used, because we know DNA does not degrade. So even if that is extracted and studied, that can be taken as a sample for DNA profiling. So that is all about DNA fingerprinting, the principles, the method, as also the applications. Thank you.